All of us familiar with the growth of the Quango will be aware of how these unelected, unaccountable organisations have come to control and dominate British public life. Not us, the democratically elected members, but the Quangos. Failure is rewarded, never punished. No organisation encapsulates that point as comprehensively as the MHRA, the Medicines and Healthcare Products Regulatory Agency. Their role is essentially to ensure that medicines and medical devices are safe and effective. Where have we heard those words before? How can they possibly be trusted to regulate properly when they are largely funded by the companies that they are tasked to regulate? It's simply human nature for a conflict like this to impact on the decision-making process. The MHRA's biggest challenge in its history was the COVID response. It failed. It enabled the biggest assault on civil liberties and economic prosperity in my lifetime, lockdown. The greatest scandal of them all. It was quite simply the most disgraceful period of recent history. The MHRA's insistence on vaccines for all enabled lockdown restrictions to continue for as long as they did. They must take part responsibility for the consequences. Vast NHS backlogs, rife mental health issues, soaring alcohol-related deaths, obesity booming, children's development wrecked, long-term illnesses mounting, increased substance abuse, domestic violence on the rise, unnoticed child neglect, fathers missing the birth of their children, and elderly loved ones left to rot and die alone. We weren't even allowed to properly mourn the dead. The wicked list is endless. None of it was based on any science, certainly not vaccinating almost the entire population, including disgracefully young children. This was a hideous dereliction of duty from the MHRA. It's not just children they forced the COVID vaccination on, tens of millions who had absolutely no need for it whatsoever. And there was clear risk from taking the vaccine. Not just the initial 2 doses, but the booster following that. The MHRA knew that, but failed to act. Why? Political pressure not to undermine the wretched COVID response? Had they been honest about the real need or lack of it for population-wide vaccinations, the whole case for lockdown collapses. As of the 4th of November, there have been 489,991 adverse reaction reports for COVID-19 vaccines in the UK. This is just the reported issues. What is the true number? When individual after individual reports feeling far worse following taking the vaccine than they ever did after the virus, should we not question whether that vaccination was necessary? The MHRA failed. This was not a vaccine that was needed for the entire population. It simply wasn't. We were fed the lie that through taking the jab it would protect vulnerable loved ones. That was disgraceful dishonesty. The vaccine did not prevent transmission. We know that now, and we knew that then. It should always have been a fully free and informed choice. If an elderly man in his 90s believes that the virus poses more of a threat than the vaccine, then let him take it. For almost everyone under 70, that was a risk analysis which fell firmly in the camp of not having the vaccine. Don't even get me started on the abhorrent vaccine passport policy, one of the most evil policies devised by government in living memory. The MHRA should have provided full and transparent data so that the educated adults could make their own decisions for themselves and for their families. It must act as an independent barrier against both political expedience and corporate profit, protecting public health above all else. The question is, who regulates the regulator? Who protects against regulatory capture? How did the MHRA allow politicians, celebrities and even their own agency to describe these vaccines as safe and effective, when yellow card data clearly shows it's not universally safe and certainly not universally effective?